How about the digital wallet solution for ODL? Do you think people understand how the on-demand liquidity works?
No, I don't. I think that I think it's probably not explicated anywhere in a form that's like easily consumable. And so I think there's lots of questions. The biggest distinction to be made is that ODL does use XRP, but it doesn't require that companies buy vast sums of XRP to then run it through the ODL mill. It's quick turnaround. The good thing is that, to my mind, is that it increases XRP liquidity in many different channels. And that's the hope. That's what you want to see.
The liquidity is, I think, improving for sure. And I think it will continue to improve. And I think those corridors we can see building out. We've got the new corridor coming from Sweden and the new corridor coming from France.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of ODL growth this last 12 months. It's been super nice to see. Finally, right? Since the launch in 2018, it feels like it's now really starting to gain the momentum.
I think too, it will be interesting to see as ODL continues to grow so greatly, what that does to price. And it will be interesting to see how much the price of XRP does or does not follow the crypto market in general, because there is a constant stream of liquidity now. And if it's only growing, I'm very curious to see what that does. My hope, my hunch, is that it will only increase confidence in it.
Well, if it works out like the grand vision and really the experiment that's turning out to be successful, will be coming down to supply and demand. And as that, it's really kind of simple. You've got three things that impact price. You've got speculation, you've got the whales still, because we're still a very small nascent marketplace. But at the end of the day, it's supply and demand. And so if you are having an impact on the demand, then that affects the supply and that raises price. So we should see that effect, but to how high or how fast or how long does it take, that's, I think, that nobody knows.
Yeah, that's the unknown part.
Yeah. And we're still running up against some competition out there. I mean, JP Morgan just announced at Sibos yesterday that they are going to partner with Swift in their Go solution, and they're going to try to provide that settlement on the ends with their banks in all those different corridors. And there's going to be people trying to grab as much of that market share as possible. And there won't be just one solution.
That's right.
And we're still just really early in the stage of how it's going to be carved up.
It will be so interesting to look back in a few years, just in the payments and the treasuries industry alone, or treasury industry, I should say, at how this all washes out. Payment channels, tranches of liquidity, who has control over what.
With the CBDCs versus the stable coins, and then you have the atomic settlements, and then you have these walled gardens where people will cooperate, some people will not cooperate. I mean, there's just so many variables. We really just don't know yet.
It's funny too, about the narrative about stable coins in the last year has changed so dramatically. When the market was only going up, stable coins were everything. And then, we had a number of them collapse, and suddenly they aren't in vogue quite as much anymore. So, I expect these things have their uses, and it's somewhat cyclical, and they'll be back.
there'll probably be some stable coins that are based on a basket of backing, like Tether is, but maybe even more collaborative among certain central banks around the world. I mean, I don't even think we've even seen all the examples yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you wake up in the morning, what do you first look at to find out, where are you heading to find out what has happened? Do you go to Twitter first, or do you do the news? What is it that you're doing?
That's a good question. I fire up my browser. I have the same pages that open up every morning with a cup of coffee or two. So Twitter, I always, click the star so that I can see what the most popular tweets, or what Twitter's algorithm calls the biggest tweets that I missed overnight. Because one of the things that's very true about XRP in the crypto industry is it's global and it's 24/7. And so there's a lot of wonderful things that happen while you're asleep, no matter
Right.
where you are in the world. So I like to catch up on those things and then set it to whatever the latest news is. I always pull up, there's a website called Finextra.
Oh, yeah.
It's a fintech news reporting site. And that kind of sets the agenda for the day of what articles to look into to see if there are connections to XRP or Ripple. There's another one called The Papers. I think a lot of people are familiar with these sites. And so I look to see if there are any names I recognize. And if so, I will read those articles and look at the names in those articles. And sometimes I'll start Googling around, see what those names are, see if it leads anywhere. And so that keeps me pretty up to date. I also very regularly Google search for PDFs.
Yeah.
And the keywords, I'm literally just throwing things against the wall to see what sticks. But I do it regularly enough that it returns some interesting things that may or may not be reported on. A lot of the UBRI papers that come out.
Oh, right. With the
and those are
university.
interesting.
Yeah.
Now, I don't claim to understand a lot of them. Some I read through them to try and understand the basic concepts of what they're doing, but that's how I start. I think beyond that, if I have time to dig a little, what I usually do is try and there are a number of known Ripple partners and XRP users. And so I try and search first for news on those, and then second for documents, files on those, to see what I turn up.
Yeah, I do the same. I've been really zeroing in on Tranglo.
Yeah.
That's one that's making a lot of new partnerships all over the world, and trying to see if I can get any information in regards to the expansion of ODL, of course, with them. And I'm starting to do specific names too. Like Cindy Young is really showing up in a lot of panels and presentations. And of course, Naveen Gupta, Brooks and Twistle. I am always, he's under the radar usually.
Yeah.
But I'm looking for him in the space. Cindy's been front and forward recently, so there's a lot of good stuff. And Susan Friedman and Wallace, Bill Wallace, and Advani, who's in Singapore. Yeah, I've been starting to really zero in on the names because that usually I can find something.
Yeah. It's also worth it. Well, speaking from North America, there are more regional fintech websites. And so particularly the Middle East and Asia, particularly Southeast Asia, that I like to frequent. So there's, I believe it's fintechnews.ae is a MENA fintech website.
I'm
And
not
so
sure have used them.
sometimes you'll find information there. There's, there are these websites like prnewswire.com, and they're
Yes.
really cumbersome to sort through. I hate trying to search for anything on them, but similar webs. So that's in English. It appears to me to be largely North American based, but there's similar websites in other regions, and so I really like. There's a website called Zawya, ZAWYA.com,
Mm.
that is easier to search through, that also has press releases, but more from the Middle East, North Africa.
Mm.
So I will spend some time. The other place that people find a lot of information too that's great is YouTube, the various conferences and
Yep.
names. Because of my situation, I just don't have the time or the space in the day to be on YouTube to watch video.
Oh,
So
I do a lot of that. Yeah. Darren Moore is the
yeah,
and King Solomon. Well, King is really good with the patents. He's a
yeah,
patent searcher.
that's
But
right.
Darren is probably watching. I can tell from I'm also a Patreon member of his, so I see
Ah,
everything
good.
that he's watched and posts. I'll betcha he watches more than 6 to 8 hours of video a day.
Wow, that's work.
Yeah.
That's work.
Yeah.
Well, and I would be remiss if I did not make it clear. I'm eternally grateful to Darren because
Mm-hmm.
in the beginning, this is 2017, 2018, I forget when, um, he pointed out how to do Google searches for PDFs and things and kind of narrow down what to look for. So just
Mm-hmm.
tremendously helpful. So we've talked along the ways and he's helped and nudged, and so I'm very grateful.
Yeah, he's one of the best researchers out there. But the researchers that are really on the top are putting in the hours.
Yeah.
It's just it's a matter of time. You can watch 20 videos and maybe only one video for 2 minutes. You bingo.
Right. Right.
Yeah, so it's
Words cannot describe how tired I am of Google results that turn up torque ripple hertz and ice cream. It's, but that's what you end up doing.